Hi, I'm Delightha Myers with Fort Worth Actors Studio, and I thought we would do an acting class today. It's a little hard to do acting classes on YouTube, but script analysis works. And so we're going to dive into script analysis, just the basics, the very beginning. But I think that by doing script analysis, it really does help an actor stand out from the crowd. You've done the homework, and so you know the risks that you can take. And you know how your character is going to be different from someone else's character, how your choices are going to stand out because they're unique to you. So we're going to look at that. I filmed this class while we were all in lockdown during the COVID days, and I've unearthed it. It's back from the vault. So we're going to start with some vocabulary words and then dive into script analysis.
Action is the physical pursuance of a specific goal. So you know what action is, right? We run, that's an action. Blinking is an action. It's a physicalization of we're doing something. So action, the physical pursuance of a specific goal. Beat, a single unit of action. A scene may be comprised of one or more of these. Beat change. The point during a scene where a new action begins. It occurs when a new piece of information is introduced, or an event takes place over which the character has no control, and which by its very nature must change what the actor is doing. Super objective, the character's overall goal. Use I want when discussing your character's super objective. So the first vocabulary word we talked about was action. Action can sometimes be called a tactic. And so we're going to try out some different actions or tactics now so that it makes more sense to you. So an action or tactic is a verb. And as an actor, you always say to something. So if my character was eating food, I would say to eat. What does your character do wanting? Well, my character wants to eat. So that's my tactic, to eat. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game, and it's about a flower right now. So imagine that there's a flower in front of you, and you have to do something to this flower. You have to perform a verb. So it could be to pick. So if I had a flower, I picked it, right? Or to smell. I could punch it. To punch. I can do anything I want to this imaginary flower. What I want you to do right now is I want you to pause the video and come up with 3 tactics to do towards this flower. So to blink, right? You're blinking at the flower. To light the flower. But whatever it is, you're not filming this, but I just want you to pause it and pretend that there's a flower in your room and do 3 tactics towards this flower. You have been learning about verbs since you were in the 1st grade at least. So it shouldn't be new information about what a verb is or, acting like you're doing something to a flower. We can all pretend to imagine to pick, to stomp, to cry towards this flower. But what sometimes catches some new actors is that they want to perform an emotion towards something. And we can't perform an emotion. We can't just say to this flower, to make me cry, to feel sad. What do you want to do to the flower? I want it to feel sad. You can't make somebody feel something, right? But you can punch somebody. To punch, they literally got punched. But you can't make them feel. So I'm going to read a bit about this from Stanislavski's An Actor Prepares, because he talks about emotion and why we can't impose emotions as tactics. Let's sum up what you have done, said the director. I shall begin with you, he said, indicating me. And at the same time with you and you, he went on, pointing to Maria and Paul. Sit right here on these chairs where I can see you better. And begin. You are to be jealous. You to suffer, you to grieve, just produce those moods for their own sakes. We sat down, and immediately we felt the absurdity of our situation. As long as I was walking about, writhing like a savage, it was possible to imagine that there was some sense in what I was doing. But when I was put on a chair with no external movements, the absurdity of my performance was clear. Well, what do you think? Asked the director. Can one sit on a chair and for no reason at all be jealous? Or all stirred up or sad? Of course, it is impossible. Fix this for all time in your memories. On the stage, there cannot be, under any circumstances, action which is directed immediately at the arousing of a feeling for its own sake. To ignore this rule results only in the most disgusting artificiality. When you are choosing some bit of action, leave feeling and spiritual content alone. Never seek to be jealous or to make one suffer for its own sake. All such feelings are the result of something that has gone before, of the thing that goes before you. Should think as hard as you can. As for the result, it will produce itself. So you can't just say, oh, if you're in a scene with somebody and you want them to be sad, to make you sad, to be sad. That's not an action that you can play, but you could manipulate them to manipulate. You could to threaten them. These are very strong actions that might, after a while, make someone feel something. But you can't just say, oh yeah, in this scene, my goal is to make you super sad. That's not a strong action, and so we cannot impose emotions on our acting partner that we're working with. Tactics are our little ways of getting what we want. And then we talked about super objective when we were doing the vocabulary. And the super objective is the overall goal that we want to achieve in the scene. So if in my scene, I'm doing a monologue, and my monologue, my person that I'm acting to is my mom. She's the person that's listening to me do this monologue. In this monologue, I want my overall super objective, my big goal is to spend the night at my friend's house. That's what I want. I want to spend the night at my friend's house. And so the whole time I'm working on this monologue, I want my mom to say, yes, I can go spend the night. So my super objective is to spend the night at my mom's house. Not my mom's house, to spend the night at my friend's house. So on my monologue, if I had a monologue, let's say this was my monologue, at the top of my page, I would write to spend the night at my friend's house. Super objective. I would write that up at the very top of my page so I always, when I'm working on my monologue, I can remember what my goal is. Because you have to know what your goal is. Why are you saying these words? And then each line you would go through and say, okay, what's my smaller tactics? So in my monologue, maybe at first my smaller tactic is to praise my mom. Mom, you're the best. I love you so much. But she still looks at me like, no, you're not going to spend the night at your friend's house. Well, that didn't work. So I need a new tactic. What's my new tactic going to be? To barter. Okay, so if you let me go spend the night at my friend's house, I will do the dishes all week long. And she still looks at me like, absolutely not. That smaller tactic didn't work. I need a new smaller tactic that helps me achieve my big goal. So what could that be? This is something you would never do, to blackmail. Mom, if you don't let me go to my friend's house, I'm going to tell Dad how much money you spent on those shoes. And she's like, that's not working. So finally, my last small tactic, and it has to work, is just to annoy my mom. Mom, 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 mom. She finally says, fine, go. And so I get to go. I achieved my big super objective while doing these tiny little tactics. So that's super objective and tactics. So in your monologue or your scene, whatever you're working on, always put super objective at the top of your script so that you know what your big goal is. And then as you go through and you have smaller tactics, write those smaller tactics in so that you know what you're working on minutely. To help us make sense of all of these new vocabulary words and analyzing of a scene, we're going to do a scene together. So I've sent you a scene, and it will also appear on the screen right now. And the scene is from Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. There's two people in this scene, Happy and Biff. I am going to be reading Happy, and you are going to read Biff. So if we go through I'm happy. So what we're going to do right now, we're just going to do a cold read together. So get your script up. Fortunately for you, you don't really have to hold your script because the words are going to appear on the screen. And again, you're reading Biff, and we're just going to cold read this. What's the matter? He's not mocking you. He just wants you to make good. That's all. I wanted to talk to you about Dad for a long time, Biff. Something's happening to him. He talks to himself. But not so noticeable. It got so embarrassing, I sent him to Florida. And do you know something? Most of the time he's talking to you. I can't make it out. I think the fact that you're not settled, that you're kind of up in the air. What do you mean? So hopefully you were reading Biff's lines while I was reading Happy's lines. It's a little weird because clearly you're not here in this room with me. I'm not here with you. And so it might have been a little off, but we at least read through the scene together. So looking at this, I'm looking at Happy. And let's see, what do I know about him? Happy, the youngest son, less confident than Biff. So I would say my big super objective, just making a quick call right here, would be to confide, right? Because I'm telling my brother stuff and I'm trusting him. So my super objective is to confide. By the time this scene is over, I want to have confided this secret about our dad. So that's what I say our super objective is. Look at Biff. What do you think his super objective might be? It says Biff is the oldest son. He's tall and powerful. And I'm not sure what you picked. The cool thing about acting is that there are no bad choices. It's just that sometimes there are better choices. So if your choice isn't the same one that I'm going to say, it's okay. I'm going to say that his super objective is to confront Happy, his brother. It's to confront. He's putting up a wall, and so he's confronting him a little bit. So one brother just wants to talk about it and confide, and one wants to kind of fight a little bit. So then we look through, and with each line, we're going to look and see where are the beat changes. So looking at this, what's the matter? Why does Dad mock me all the time? Okay, so Biff didn't answer his question, right? So that's a new thought. So we put a slash there. So what's the matter? And we'd put a slash because the beat changes. If Biff had said, if Happy says, what's the matter? And if Biff had said, oh, I don't know, maybe then there wouldn't be a beat change, but he's thinking, what's the matter? Why does Dad mock me all the time? He is not present with Happy. He's not in this moment. He's thinking a new thought. So this is a beat change. So we put a slash there. Why does Dad mock me all the time? He's not mocking you. Everything I say, there's a twist of mockery on his face. I can't hear him. He just wants you to make good, that's all. And then there's a new beat change because all of that is still on that one subject. They're all talking about the same thing. But now we have another beat change. So we'd put a slash and we would have a new beat. I wanted to talk to you about Dad for a long time, Biff. Something's happening to him. He talks to himself. I noticed that this morning, but he always mumbled. But not so noticeable. It got so embarrassing. I sent him to Florida, and you know something? I would say there's a beat change here. Most of the time he talks about you because there's something deeper here. We're talking about Dad, but now we're talking about you. So there's a beat change. So we put another slash there. Most of the time he's talking to you. What's he say about me? Well, I can't make it out. What's he say about me? I think the fact that you're not settled, that you're still kind of up in the air, there's one or two other things depressing him, Happy. So there's probably a beat change right before that because we've been talking about Biff and how, Dad's talking about him, blah, 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 blah. But now there's a new thought. There's one or two other things depressing him, Happy. What do you mean? Never mind. So there'd be a beat change right before never mind, because he doesn't finish this thought. He has moved on to a new thought. So slash, never mind. Just don't lay it all to me. So in there we had about 4 beat changes. And so you'd put those slashes there. That way you know where the scene's going, where we've had this thought, now we have a new thought. So anytime you have these new thoughts, you put a slash and we have a new beat change. And you as the actor have to come up with a new tactic, right? Throughout this whole thing, you, Biff, your super objective is to confront. So at first, what's the matter? Why does Dad mock me all the time? So what's your small tactic here? Perhaps it's to face your brother. I'm going to face you. I'm going to really look at you and I'm going to say this line to you. Why does Dad mock me all the time? Right? That's different than if you had said to cower, why does Dad mock me all the time? That's not very strong. Biff seems like a strong character, so you make a strong action here. Why does Dad mock me all the time? Oh, he's not mocking you. Everything I say, there's a twist of mockery on his face. So you're still facing him, right? I can't get near him. Happy says, he just wants you to make good, that's all. I wanted to talk to you about Dad for a long time, Biff. Something's happening to him. He talks to himself. Well, now is your turn, Biff, right, to have a new tactic. I noticed that this morning, but he always mumbled. Maybe it's to shrug it off. Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, he's always mumbling. To shrug versus you could yell, yeah, I noticed that. To, what else could you do? To smile, yeah, I noticed that. He's always mumbling. Right, there's no wrong choice, but there is a better choice. So here I'd say to shove it off, to shrug it off, to shrug. I noticed that this morning, but he always mumbled. But not so noticeable. It got to be so embarrassing. I sent him to Florida, and you know something? Most of the time, he's talking about you. Again, this is a new tactic, right? And maybe my version of Biff, he has a little ego. So it's like, oh, he's talking about me. So to yearn. I want to know more information. To yearn. What's he say about me? You could be uncomfortable about this sort of thing, and so you could to hide. What's he say about me? Maybe it makes you nervous. But my version of Biff is that he's very strong and he's kind of cocky, so he wants to know more information. Then Happy says, I can't make it out. What's he say about me? So even though there's not really a beat change here, your character repeats himself. Anytime a character repeats themselves in a script, you have to have a new tactic because clearly you didn't achieve your goal by saying it the first time. And so you need a new way. Because if you just said to yearn, if you said it to yearn both ways, what's he say about me? I can't make it out. What's he say about me? That's really boring. But what if you said, what's he say about me to yearn? I can't make it out. And then what if you threaten him? To threaten. What's he say about me? That's powerful. So you need to come up with a new tactic, even though there's not a completely new beat change. Happy says, I think the fact that you're not settled, that you're still kind of up in the air. Biff, there's 1 or 2 other things depressing him, Happy. That is a beat change. So perhaps it's to, I don't know, it could be, you could keep going in this like threatening manner and just slice him, right? There's 1 or 2 other things depressing him. That way you're deflecting it. It's not about you anymore. You're putting it back on your dad. It's not about you. Or if you wanted to be a little bit more humble, you could to confide, right? Well, there's 1 or 2 other things depressing him. I choose to slice because I think that this character Biff is very strong and he wants to be in control of the situation. To slice is what I say. And then Happy says, what do you mean? There's a beat change. Never mind. Just don't lay it all to me. I say it's just murder. Never mind. Just don't lay it all on me. Because he's aggressive. He's very angry. But your Biff could be very different. And you could just, to dismiss. Never mind. Just don't lay it all on me. It's 2 very different ways. But the beautiful thing about doing tactic work and coming up with a super objective is that whatever your version of the scene is, will be different than someone else's. And that is what makes you stand out from other people.
I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to dive deeper, I challenge you to do psychological actions on top of your tactic work. So what is a psychological action? Well, it's the essence of why you're doing this tactic. So if my tactic was to hide from this character that I'm in a scene with, why am I hiding? What's going on psychologically? So perhaps it's to hide to save, so that I'm saved, my life is safe, or it's to hide so that I can scare that person, or it's to hide so that I don't have a nervous breakdown. But you take it a step further, to hide so that you can blah, 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 to hide, and then it's another action, right? So what if it was to cower? Why am I cowering? To cower so that my abusive father can't find me. Or it's to cower so that I don't have to do my homework. Or perhaps it's to face my fear so that I can be a winner. It's to face my fear so that I can get the gold ribbon, I don't know. But you get what I mean. It's just taking it a step further so that you understand what's going on psychologically. And I find that when you do that, you do dive into deeper character work. So I challenge you to do that on top of your tactics, on top of your beats, on top of your super objective. And whatever you do, your scene, your monologue, the overall film, it's going to wow somebody. It's going to be great. So I hope that is helpful. Use this on your next audition or your next job. And I hope it helps.